When Donald Trump says that help is on the way, what does that look like, do you think?
I have to say, I think that means some kind of military action. You know, he announced yesterday the 25% secondary tariffs on countries that traded with Iran. That is not something that would either change the regime's behavior by itself, nor, since China is the major economic partner of Iran, is that something he would want to keep on for an extended period of time. He's valued the trading relationship the U.S. has with China. So to me, that looks like a stopgap until additional assets of some kind get in the theater or our bases are made ready for a potential counterstrike. But I do think something stronger is coming.
When you talk about, and noting the work you did on sanctions against Iran when you were working for the State Department, when that was announced yesterday, I think there was a sense from many that that didn't go far enough and that there are already so many sanctions against Iran and there's not many countries really doing meaningful trade with Iran. It's in the low numbers, China being one, as you say. Does that have any effect at all, what he announced yesterday on sanctions?
It does. I mean, there's only one indicator of sanctions that really, really matters, and it's the amount of hard currency the Iranian regime has in its central bank, because it uses that hard currency, not its domestic currency, to support terrorist groups like Hezbollah, to support attacks overseas, but also to prop up the rial at home. Hyperinflation on its currency, the rial, is what spurred the protests today. It's always been the weakness of the regime, and so the secondary tariffs that Trump put on will affect that, because China will have to offer a deeper discount for buying oil. But like the first time, that's a beat or two away. I mean, Iran's not going to get new hard currency in the next 24 hours or the next 36 hours. It's at least a few weeks away before that has an impact. That won't affect right now. That's why I think something else is coming.
And there's been reports of gold being transferred out of the country, linked with the Ayatollah, of course. I'm curious to know whether you think that signals a regime that knows its time's up.
Oh, you know, we've sounded the death knell for the Islamic Republic a few times now, every time there's thousands of Iranians in the streets. I do think that is the single most important asset the Iranian regime has. It's this hard currency, the liquid currency, gold, yen, euros. If they're moving them out of the country truly, then that is the most important indicator I've seen that they are preparing for every eventuality.
The ambassador, former UK ambassador to Iran, who I played earlier on, made the connection that, in his view, this can be masqueraded by President Trump as acting in the best interests as the protesters, but he was saying that it's almost retribution because of the deposition of the Shah back in 1979 and the actions of the Islamic Republic over many decades. Do you accept this is about more than just the protests we've seen in recent days?
You know, I am not sure how strongly the president looks back and says, well, you know, 40 years ago they did X, 30 years ago they did Y. I think others in the top circle, particularly those that served in Iraq and Afghanistan, you know, for the first time there's a significant amount of global war on terror veterans among the top circle of Trump decision makers. Many Americans who were in that position have suffered from Iranian munitions, from explosively formed projectiles. Before then, the Iranians did horrible things to American officials during the Lebanese Civil War. We had one official who was, I believe, skinned alive by an Iranian proxy with videos of his suffering sent to our embassy in Athens. So there is no doubt that for a lot of Americans, there is a moral element of this that's much more recent. I think for the president in particular, you know, he has very much, he's been called at times an isolationist, but what he really has is more of a common man foreign policy. If he sees horrible things going on, he will do what he can to stop it. The same way the common man off the street would look at a gassing in Syria or a massacre in Iran and say, oh, that's horrible. Why can't we do something about that? Kind of ideology aside, let's act. I think that's much more powerful for him.
You spoke firstly about airstrikes and that being what you feel the president is getting at. People understandably now are sort of messaging in Dr. Peek and saying, well, look at what we've seen play out over the years in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in Libya. Why on earth should we think that this is going to be any different, particularly given the backdrop for this? The Ayatollah is also not just the supreme leader, he's also the religious leader of the Islamic Republic.
So they're quite right to be concerned. You know, I served in Afghanistan with the Army. I know a lot of British people did. They were great soldiers for us. A lot of Americans, as I noted, did also. So I think there are real concerns, particularly insofar as Iran, unlike Iraq and Syria, is not a minoritarian regime. It's not a minority religion ruling over a majority that would have kind of a common interest in ruling the country after Saddam or Assad is gone. It would almost certainly be a bloody contestation of power within among Shia Persians. I do think the religious piece is less of a concern. You know, Khamenei's religious credentials himself are not that impressive, certainly compared to Sistani's in Iraq. And because Sistani is considered kind of not only the more qualified, but probably as a wider religious following, that combined with the failures of the Islamic Republic, I do think there would be less of a religious fallout if there was some kind of action against Khamenei.
Lastly, we saw what happened with President Maduro. We've seen in the past the United States be involved with leaders. Could you imagine a situation where the Ayatollah is captured or even killed by the US?
Yes. Absolutely. I think we've crossed that Rubicon with Maduro. I don't think there was, as there shouldn't have been, probably any kind of global, international outrage that a leader of a foreign country was targeted in such a way. I suspect, even though it would be atypical, that the world would not react too terribly awfully if Khamenei was removed. There are other Iranians.
Just on that though, you're referring to including being killed.
Yeah, including being killed. I don't think there would be tremendous. I don't think there would be tremendous outrage. This is a horrible regime. There would be a difference between being concerned about consequences and being concerned about the moral act of killing Khamenei. I don't think the moral act would be tremendously outrageous. There are other Iranians who would step into that role. There might be a beat or two. It might take a moment, but they don't lack for ayatollahs.
Steve's in Haringey. Hi, Steve.
Hi, Henry. First time caller to your show.
Well, that's lovely to hear. Why have you called in?
Okay, look, of course, I don't agree with the Iranian government at all on religious grounds either.
Yes.
Their behaviour is despicable and it's completely wrong and it needs to stop. I agree. People have the right to peacefully protest in favour of change for the better, of course. And they have no right to gun them down, of course. A note of caution, though. Be careful with Donald Trump. Do it on the basis that you are on your own. Don't expect the American army to come to your rescue because Donald Trump did a deal with the Taliban and put them back in charge. And I fact-checked that this evening.
Well, the Taliban are in charge in Afghanistan, aren't they? I mean,
yeah.
That's quite right. Afghanistan was a specific case, wasn't it? And look, our previous guest served in Afghanistan, as he was mentioning, but that clearly, I mean, no one can claim any credit for how that turned out. The hope here, I would surmise, Steve, is that there is a opposition leader or an exiled prince who could go in an interim term, would be their view, and then hopefully have some sort of election. Lovely.
It'd be great. But let's be realistic about this. The region is very prone to power struggles. Very. After they got rid of bin Laden, people said that they had another 1,000 of them. So, there's...
What do you want to see then? What would you like to see, Steve, in terms of US help?
I don't know what Donald Trump has got in mind.
Well,
all I'm saying
you and me both.
All I'm saying is people should not proceed on the basis that they are going to have this saviour come romping over the hill with an army to support them in what is probably going to be a very bloody conflict.
Well, Well, that's the issue, and you're right. I mean, one thing I think we haven't considered is if the Ayatollah is removed, and look, no one will shed a tear for him. I mean, he has led the sort of poison in the Middle East. If it then becomes military rule, and we then have the IRGC, the Revolutionary Guards sort of running Iran, then that's going to be as bad, if not potentially worse.
There isn't someone waiting in the wings that we know of who can...
Well, there's the Crown Prince. There's the Crown Prince. Are you talking about who could unite?
This is going to be a bloody conflict, right? It's the nature of the thing. Yeah. And it doesn't help at all that some people are protesting, are going around saying death to this person and death to that person, because it makes people paranoid and they pull weapons out. So really they should stick to peaceful protest, keep the moral high ground, and they'll have the support of, everybody else. But, it's one thing to say there might be some nice person, this benevolent person who's going to come in and take charge. The pushy people with the guns are the ones who take charge.
Well, it's a fair point. Thank you, Steve, in Haringey. I think that the thing is, there's often been this view, and people have been saying, well, the Iranian regime will fall when the people of Iran want it to. I mean, since 2009, when we had the Green Movement, since 2022, where we had mass protests because of women's rights, because of Mahsa Amini, who was killed in custody. I mean, they've lost faith with the Iranian regime for some time, hence why most of them have left the country. So I don't know what really needs to happen to help the people of Iran next, short of, as our guest said, Dr Peek, who worked with Donald Trump, by the way, there could be some sort of airstrike. But again, that doesn't necessarily get you the desired outcome. Adam's in Romford. Hello, Adam.
Hello, evening.
Evening. Thank you for calling in. What did you want to say?
It's fairly disappointing. You just hear all these people banging on Donald Trump, banging on about what should happen in somebody else's country. It is their country. Leave them be. Let them get on with what they get on with. What we need to do is remove the sanctions. What we need to do is start making friends of them. What we need to do is set a good example.
Hold on, Adam. You can't sort of make friends with this regime. They've just killed 2,000 of their civilians.
Well, we're friends with Netanyahu, who's killed 70,000, or mostly 70,000 civilians.
But Adam, this is different. We're talking about, in this situation, an Ayatollah and the IR.
There's nothing different about a live human being and a dead human being.
But the IRGC who've fired on protesters.
You don't know that.
What do you mean?
That's what. We've got cameras in there.
We've seen videos. We've seen.
It's hearsay.
What, you don't think hundreds, if not 2,000, the latest count, people have been killed in Iran?
I don't know.
There's people who've been sentenced to the death penalty.
And you don't know.
But Adam, you can't just say because we're not there. Because we're not there. If it was because we're not there, then we wouldn't have any reporting on what's going on in Gaza, which you just mentioned, for example.
Well, I did mention Gaza. We're not there, so we don't know whether it's 70,000. But what we do know, if you levelled the whole of Romford, right, you'd be sure that a few thousand people are going to die. Yeah, innocent people, right? So the whole of Gaza has been levelled, right? So let's look at it sensibly. Stop. We're talking like mad people, Think about it.
Adam, you're the one, respectfully. I can't believe that your view on this is we don't believe the figures. But Adam, hold on. Okay. Adam, you talk about wearing the shoes of the figures. They are out there desperately calling for Donald Trump to intervene, based on everything I've seen, saying, can you please help and remove this poisonous regime?
Donald Trump is poison himself.
Well, you may think that, and sure, there's plenty to criticise him about, but at least he hasn't murdered 2,000 of protesters on the street.
What about the woman that was his own citizen that was murdered by an ICE
it's such a what about argument. The video of the woman who was killed by an ICE agent is deplorable,
and it's
dead. Exactly, and it's shocking.
But
Adam, you can do two things at the same time.
Adam, people did not die because he was not bringing in draconian.
Well, firstly, that's not true, because 3 people on average die across the US each day as a result of police.
Well, they tried to stop all this gun proliferation, but Trump wants to carry that on.
But Adam, you can criticise Donald Trump for his domestic policy, and there are a number of people who would do that, whilst people in Iran are still calling for him to do something.
They're not calling for him to do anything. I've not seen.
Well, what have you seen then? I'm curious. What have you seen that's happening in it? So there's no murder. There's no one calling for regime change. They're all happy with the Ayatollah, are they? With a rand that's now 1.47 million to the dollar.
Hold on a second, right? The reason that is the case is because we put sanctions on them.
Oh,
right?
Yes, to some extent, but
those sanctions are only there, right, because it's a power play, right, rather than actually sort of saying, look, let's get round the table. Let's do what the British do. Get round the table. Sit down with these
Adam,
people.
we had round the table. We had the Iran nuclear deal, and they were still enriching weapons-grade uranium.
Well, they weren't. And they were using it. They weren't using it for weapons. They're Muslims. They don't want to kill people.
What are you on about? They were enriching uranium to a point where it was weapons grade. Yes, they enriched other uranium for nuclear plants, for example.
Henry, the 12-day war that happened, right, if they were enriching uranium and doing nuclear whatevers, how come they didn't lob them all into Israel? They didn't, because they don't want to kill.
Because it clearly wasn't finished, and also the US bombed them during the 12-day war.
Even if right, they had nukes, they would not do it because they love the Palestinians that are there.
I can't understand why you are shilling for Iran.
No, you're shilling. Right, I don't know who you're shilling for.
I'm worried about people being killed on the streets of Tehran, Isfahan.
You couldn't give a damn because... Okay, so which is worse, 2,000 people or 70,000 people to die?
Adam, you can think both, but they're separate foreign policy decisions, right? We're talking in this instance about the leader who is killing people on the streets.
2,000 people or 70,000 people. Which one is worse? You tell me.
Adam,
you don't have any value for the Palestinians.
Well, hold on. That's not fair. Adam, don't tell me what I feel. Don't tell me what I feel. That's.
Well, it's obvious.
Well, that's not true at all. If you listen to me on LBC, of course I am extremely... I mean, concern doesn't even cut it. The number of Palestinian people who've been killed is obviously shocking. It's obviously unacceptable. You have to accept, though, Adam, there are different situations. In that, for example, look, we don't know... partially because they're not allowed journalists in, fine, but we don't know how many are working for Hamas. We don't know about where Hamas operate because they haven't been clear on that. Have you hung up?
No, absolutely not.
Right, sorry. Sorry, I didn't
see your point.
Right.
It matters not, right? The whole point is this is a regional sort of struggle, right? And for my mindset, right, what you need to do is remove Netanyahu, remove the guy in Iran. I don't even know his name.
Ayatollah of Iran, yes, but
because both of them can't lead.
Okay, but Adam,
both of them can't lead.
Yeah,
and and if both of them,
but leave Netanyahu to one side, right? I mean, look, I'm sure. Well, no, but I'm just. Well, no,
it takes two.
Because
two kids are fighting in the playground.
Adam, I'm saying leave him. Adam, I'm saying leave him to one side because I understand your point on Netanyahu, right? And I think whenever there is an election in Israel, I suspect he's going to be roundly defeated, and his coalition's already collapsing. Hold on, but on Khamenei, how is that regime going to fall? I mean, there are fewer people out protesting because they have seen their friends, their loved ones being killed. So how is that regime going to be changed? It's not. I hear
what you're saying. Now, I have a work colleague who went out to Iran. Yeah, within the last year, he went out there with his mum, and he came back and he said, "What a beautiful place!"
Yeah,
he said, "You can leave your car doors open. Nobody steals things.
Well, Adam, please don't give me an advert for holidaying in Iran when they've just killed 2,000 protesters. Give me a break."
Well, no, this was before the protests, but he went there before the 12-day war, and he said it was a peaceful place. So,
they've locked up two British motorbike riders, haven't they?
Removing the sanctions, right, is a start. We need to start pushing forwards peace and not war, not stealing oil, not carrying on in this rubbish way, selling weapons. We need to stop it.